Once again, from the studios of UNO Television on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, consider this, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Okay, first the good news. The economy is in recovery mode. As our nation continues to navigate one of the most complex economic shifts in recent history, high-tech industries like advanced manufacturing, energy, IT, and healthcare have emerged as engines of our new economy. And now, the not-so-good news. As a result of these shifts, individuals are challenged to find new career paths in these industries. It's a fact. Many of the jobs we lost are not coming back, and the skill requirements for the jobs that are available have changed. Our education and workforce training systems are misaligned and struggle to keep up with the increasing demand for workers with the right skills. This creates a middle skills gap, which continues to widen. This gap puts us at a competitive disadvantage locally, regionally, and globally.
So now what? Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, Accelerate Nebraska. Joining us to talk more about it is outgoing Speaker of the Nebraska Legislature, Senator Greg Adams, and former Director of the Nebraska Department of Economic Development and Commissioner of Labor, Catherine Lang. Thank you so much to the two of you for being here. Welcome.
You're welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Adams, before we talk about this brand new initiative, let's talk a little bit about you. What's important to know about Greg Adams?
What's important to know about me? Well, I suppose what would be most relevant would be, for me anyway, are those things that I believe will help us in this new endeavor. I'm finishing out. I'm a term-limited senator, and will be done in the first week of January, having served as Speaker of the Legislature the last 2 years. Before that, I served as Chair of the Education Committee of the Legislature for 4 years. And before that life, I was mayor in York and city council and taught at the high school in York for 31 years. So I've touched on a little bit of all that we're about with Accelerate Nebraska.
When it comes to politics, I find it interesting to ask people, how did they get into that in the first place? Do you recall what your push was?
I do, Kathy, because it's been asked many times before. I taught American government and economics at York High School, and in 1986, I had reached a point where I felt like you have to practice what you preach. And I was really pushing on my students to be participants, to be engaged, to be active. And a seat came open on the city council, and I thought, oh, what the heck, let's see what happens. And one thing just led to another, and whether it was running for mayor or running for the legislature or committee chair or speaker, I've never been one to really want to look over my shoulder and then sit down later and say, well, what if? So one thing just kind of evolved. I had no plan, believe me.
What was the biggest thing that kept you in that arena?
You know, I honestly think, and this will sound a little idyllic maybe, but it was a real belief that though I wasn't changing Nebraska or changing the world, I was having an impact. There was something I was doing, as little as it may have been, I was having an impact, and whether it was in a classroom or a speaker or anything in between, that kept me going.
Okay, thank you. And Kathy, you too come from a political background. Tell us what, I don't know, I could ask you what's not on your resume, but just tell us what's important to know about you.
Well, thank you, Kathy. I've had the pleasure of serving the state of Nebraska for 33 years in state government, all on the administrative side. I was the property tax administrator for 10 years. The deputy tax commissioner for 2. And then Governor Heineman invited me over one afternoon to have a conversation about the Nebraska Department of Labor, and he asked if I would be his commissioner of labor. So that was in 2008. And his interest with the Department of Labor and the Department of Economic Development in particular was to try and leverage those two agencies for a stronger Nebraska. What he always heard from young people was, Governor, I'd love to stay in the state of Nebraska, but I can't find a good job here. What he heard from business is, Governor, we're struggling to find talent to fill the jobs that we do have. And so he made it incumbent upon both these agencies to work together, and we did. And then in 2011, he asked if I would also be the Director of Economic Development. So in the last 2.5 years, I was honored to be the agency director for both those agencies.
So did you have a cot set up somewhere, Kathy? Because I can't imagine one of those would be enough, right, to have taken on the additional. I can't even imagine a day in your life.
Well, it was very exciting, but I credit the 460 individual employees at both of those agencies for the incredible support and assistance that they gave me as we together, as a team, moved both of those agencies forward, and together when it made sense.
Senator Adams, we're going to talk about the two of you as a team in just a minute, but I'm interested in how your paths crossed. When did you actually first meet Kathy in that realm?
Gosh, that's a good question. I should probably ask Kathy, but it maybe was before I came to the legislature. I don't exactly recall, but certainly when I came to the legislature and my service on the Revenue Committee, Kathy was there as Property Tax Administrator and give the annual reports, and if there were bills that she needed to testify on, and so it just kind of began to come together right there. Maybe there was a point before that, Kathy, and I apologize if I don't remember.
I think for me, the point of getting to know Senator Adams, not know of him, but know him, was we both served on the P16 Commission together. And he was the chair of the Education Committee at the time, and I was the Commissioner of Labor as a member of that committee. And that was the chance we had to really work together for the very first time.
That's right.
Okay, and tell us, paint a picture of workforce development then, starting off with your definition of workforce development.
When I came to the Department of Labor in 2008, we were just coming into the recession in Nebraska. And our programs were also in a bit of a state of flux because we had some financial issues that needed to be resolved. What it allowed us to do, what I think it gave us a stronger mission to do, was we had fewer resources. We had to close offices, Department of Labor offices across the state because of the financial situation. And it really forced us to focus on our mission of collaboration. The Department of Labor has programs, but those programs are only one of many programs that focus on workforce development. Our education system, be it K-12 and career and technical education in particular, our community college and higher education systems are all partners in this workforce development effort. And because of the economy and because of what we were going through as an agency, it really increased our mission and desire to collaborate to the greatest extent possible. Every grant we wrote, every extra effort that we did was all about partnership development.
You know, and that sounds so simple, sitting here listening to you, that term collaborate, right? There's a lot that goes into that. So I can't even imagine your starting point and then working your way out. Obviously you did something well. Where are we today in terms of those efforts years ago?
I think that the agency is in a great position as it works with other organizations that are focused on workforce development. And in particular, probably the thing that we are the most proud of that we accomplished in that 6-year period of time during the recession, I mentioned that over again, but during the recession, was our relationship with business. And hearing the voice of business, making sure that we understood the voice of business as we were trying to then implement the programs that were our responsibility.
Thank you, Senator Adams. A great segue then into Accelerate Nebraska. You're both leaving your posts. You are going to team up here for this initiative. Tell us in your own words, what is Accelerate Nebraska?
You know, Accelerate Nebraska, if you think about the term accelerate, to move it forward, our mission, our grand mission, as we see it, is one of improving communities and the opportunities that those communities will provide for our citizens. And I can't imagine whether it's Omaha or Hyannis, wherever it's at, you couldn't get almost unanimous agreement on that mission for every community in the state. Digging in a little bit further, what we're going to be trying to do to improve those communities and the opportunities that are in them is to develop a workforce that is more in line with what the labor market is calling for. And we don't have any special tricks. More than once, Kathy and I have looked at each other and said, how are we going to do this? We're not coming to this with any preset curriculum to hand out to schools or programs that we're going to do. Rather, we're going to try to use our skills and our expertise and our backgrounds to try to determine what best practices already exist just in the last week in our office. Mm-hmm. Because of us kicking off in the newspapers talking about us, we're beginning to hear from communities and different groups all across the state about things that are going on that I didn't know were happening. And our job isn't to say it's necessarily good or bad, mm-hmm. but collect those things, to listen, to share those things, and bring people to the table. And sometimes bring people to the table that don't always sit at the table with one another. Education and business. Get them to listen to one another, to make the appropriate adjustments so that we can do the things that are necessary to have a good qualified labor force that helps those communities grow and improves the quality of communities.
You know, Senator, we all have at least one good idea, right? We wake up one day and we think, oh, this might just fly. Mm-hmm. But very few really take it to the next level. So do you remember, were you in a certain place, were you at a certain time where you thought to yourself, there's got to be more and I'm going to be the one to step up and make sure that this gets accomplished? Do you remember anything like that?
I can't remember any specific time or place, but I will tell you that if it was in my classroom in York, Nebraska, on the floor of the legislature during debate on economic issues or on education issues, or as chairing the education committee, there were multiple times I thought, there has got to be a way to bring focus to all of this. Because there are programs all over the place. There are people trying to fix things all over the place. And somehow this has got to coagulate. It has got to come together and be directed. And when this opportunity came my way, it was like, this is it. Here's our shot. Now, we'll have to see how it goes from there.
And then you picked Kathy. How did all this work out, really, that you became a team, right? You're sitting there thinking, who might be a good person with whom I can work? And she's the logical choice, right? But my goodness, you're being pulled away from something you've known mm-hmm. for quite some time. So tell me how all of that shook out in terms of this partnership forming.
Well, you give me too much credit. I didn't pick Kathy. Had I had the opportunity, I certainly would have. But instead, there were others that kind of incubated this idea, and we were both approached by outside folks and said, this is something that we think needs to happen. We think you're the people to do this for us. And we were both at a point in our careers where we could take this challenge on.
So Kathy, tell me a little bit about what transpired when you were approached for this. I mean, surely you had to take some time to think about it and wonder, is this gonna take off the way it should? Should I leave what I know? Not an easy decision.
Not an easy decision, but a very exciting decision. I had enjoyed so much all of the opportunities that I had with the state of Nebraska, but change was coming. And for me, it was an opportunity at this stage, at this point in my life, to leverage all of the experiences that I had had with the state and hopefully be able to take them sort of to the next level, be able to advocate and work on these issues that Greg has mentioned today, that is our goal and purpose and the place that we're going to place our energy. And you know, to be able to do it in a slightly different way than being inside state government. So it's a great opportunity, and we're very excited about working together.
Well, how many people can say that too, that you're able to take all of that skill set, all of that experience, all of that knowledge, and wrap it up into an initiative, an exciting initiative like this one. So just getting started, Kathy, what's a day like in your life right now?
Well, we say to ourselves, this is a little bit of crawl and then walk and then run. Although once in a while it feels like we're running already, and that's a very good thing. The outreach to us has been incredible. We have had many meetings in the last 4 weeks of our existence, talking to other organizations and individuals who are very passionate about these issues. And a lot of our early process, and Greg mentioned it earlier, is listening. We're going to be doing a listening process across the state. We want to hear from our local partners, the ones who make it happen every single day at the local level. Understand what's going well, because there are many things going very well, but there are challenges. So then the next question is, what are those challenges? And then can we step back, look across the entire landscape, either in Nebraska or beyond, to maybe help formulate ideas and concepts that would help to circumvent or exceed and go over those challenges. And then all in all, to make it easier and better for our communities to be able to truly accelerate themselves.
So when you say communities, and we are talking about the entire state here, was there a rhyme and reason as to what doors were being opened first for you, and is there going to be a wait for a certain community in terms of it being such a big initiative, right? How did you figure out where to start, and how does it go out from there so that everybody in the state feels like they're included, right, and that they're not left behind? Kathy?
Our outreach will begin with key partners that we know that we will work with hand in glove through the entire process. So our education system, both at a K-12 level and beyond, whether that's community college or our four-year institutions. On the other side, we have our very strong economic development network in Nebraska at many levels. There's regional economic developers, there's local economic developers, and of course then there are key state agencies that are going to be very important for us, whether that's the Nebraska Department of Education, the Nebraska Department of Labor, the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. And so we know that we'll be reaching out to those, whether it's at a state level and having a statewide conversation, or going locally and regionally and bringing together the superintendent of schools along with the community college president and the Chamber of Commerce president, and having those meetings to explore and understand what is happening locally for them.
So, Senator Adams, when she says we, I'm looking at the two of you, right? And we're talking workforce development. What is it looking like for Accelerate Nebraska? Lots of volunteers? Are you going to be bringing in a staff? How is all of this going to be accomplished?
Kathy, I think it's two-part. First of all, I think a lot of the work is already being done, and it's being done in the K-12 system, both public and private. It's being done in the higher education institutions, whether it's community college or the College of Hair Design or the university. It's being done in businesses and the economic and right on the ground in the Broken Bows and the Mitchells and the Yorks. It's being done. So I don't ever see us having a very big staff. I mean, you may be looking at Accelerate Nebraska for quite some time. That's just not something that's right now on our radar screen to say, what things do we need to create and fill with people. I suspect that the day will come. We're already beginning to feel that, just from an administrative assistant standpoint, we're both used to having administrative assistants to schedule all of our meetings, and now we're being barraged by people that want to meet, they want to have phone calls, and it's like, wait a minute, we're probably going to have to get some help on this end. But beyond that, Kathy's vision may be a little bit different, but I just don't see us having an office full of people.
Okay. In the next year or two, when we go down the road here, what will have been accomplished in terms of, people like to see numbers, they like to see data, they like to outcomes, So a year or two down the road, what are you hoping will have been accomplished in terms of getting this thing successfully launched, Senator?
There are some of the more mundane things that we're dealing with right now, like just getting a nonprofit business organization set up and all the legalities and the financials and everything that go into that. And at the same time, it's reaching out and letting people know we're in operation and what we're about. And frankly, it's been less reaching out as it has been responding to those that have been reaching to us. And making sure that we contact them and follow right back up again. We plan over the next few weeks to get across the state and hold meetings with people both on the education side and the economic development and the business and the community development side to let them know what we're about, let them know that what we may be able to do to help them. I'd love to be able to sit here and say, well, our benchmark is we will have filled X number of jobs that are open right now, and the ACT scores will do this by the time we're done. I'm more of a realist than that. I think getting our message out there, and this is really important to us, it's just the two of us, and we're here for a reason. We have expertise and we have some credibility as leadership. Mm-hmm. And a year from now, I'd like to think we still have that credibility and people are still coming to us to help.
Well, and you have a great deal of support too. Who's making this possible, Senator? I mean, who is your backer here in terms of that person who stepped up? And forgive me, I was a grant writer in a former life, so I understand the whole outcome thing. And so your funders want to know what it is that you have to offer today and down the road. So who is that for Accelerate Nebraska?
Well, to start with, and we're anticipating that we'll have other funders, Jeff Schmidt and Mutual of Omaha. I mean, this was really their idea, and that we needed to have this extra force that's going to drive a little bit more of those educational outcomes and community development and alignment with workforce. And they were the ones that came to us, and they have up to this point provided the initial funding.
Okay, Kathy, I kind of think of a topic like this. Transportation is coming to mind. We all have such great ideas about improving transportation. Workforce development, that's certainly nothing new in terms of people trying to step up to the plate to make the world a better place, right? So what are you thinking is going to be the key to your success so that this wasn't just something that was, on paper, sounded good in theory, and is really going to make sure that it sticks and it is different than what has been tried in the past?
Well, I think on a number of different levels, because working with our K-12 system to create high-quality graduates that are ready for education beyond high school, training beyond high school, and the workforce, because that's where they're going. Mm-hmm. They're going to the workforce. And how can we strengthen the work that's being done to elevate career and technical education, because it is so vital to the economic engine of our state. Our businesses, we met with two business owners this week, both of whom said there is more work that we could do if we could find the workers to fill the jobs that we have. So part of it is assuring that we are bringing that talent out of the pipeline to the workforce will be a very key initiative for us, and it's where most of our focus probably will be. Mm-hmm. And we're here to support, talk about, and highlight the really good things that are happening in that arena. But also, the other part of that is, as our businesses grow and expand, we also know that we want them to become more highly competitive in terms of their market share and the work that they're doing, the products that they're producing. So the other piece is, how do we have a continuum of workforce training that allows businesses to be supported in elevating their workforce, elevating the skills of their workforce, so that they can take on that next line of business, that higher level product to then put out there, into the stream of commerce so that our businesses in Nebraska can continue to be highly competitive against regional and global markets.
Wow, talking about Accelerate Nebraska today. Senator, in just the minutes that we have remaining here, what have we not addressed that you want to make sure we get across, especially considering this is a brand new initiative? What's important to know that we haven't hit?
There may be a couple of things, and if it's all right with you, I'm going to ask Kathy to talk about one of them, and that is we really have not talked about community development and redevelopment, which is part of what we're about. We spent a lot of time talking about improving educational outcomes and aligning with labor force needs, and that's a big deal. I know that I've already said it, but you've given me an opportunity, so I'm going to repeat it. Kathy and I don't come to this with any prescribed curriculum. We don't intend to jump into classrooms and say this is how it has to be done, nor do we pretend to tell business these are your needs, you don't know what they are, we do. That's not it. It's more of an agnostic approach of trying to develop opportunities for people to talk to one another and make sure that each side is articulating, so that what we don't want is a lack of communication to be a stumbling block to the growth that we need.
Excellent, thank you. Kathy?
I'll touch on the community development side quickly. Yes, it is one of the areas that we're looking at, because if you think about this, it is a full circle. You have high quality graduates, they're coming out into a strong and vibrant Nebraska economy. They're either entrepreneurs, business owners, or the workforce. And then we want that strong community for them to reside, raise their family, and then continue the circle of life, if you will. And so some of our effort will be focused in the community development piece. The other one that I would raise just briefly is our role in hopefully supporting collective impact. The idea of bringing together, triangulating, if you will, public, private, and philanthropic resources to targeted goals, and then achieving those goals.
So for more information, people at home wanting to know what's the best way for them to reach Accelerate Nebraska at this point. Is it your cell phone there, Senator, or because it is still brand new?
It probably would be, and I mean, email's obvious, but we've got a phone number and a landline, and love to have people call us or stop in to our office.
Okay.
Love to talk to them.
Thank you both so much for being here. Your office here in Omaha,
Mm-hmm.
Mercy Road.
And our website is out there, and they can get our contact information from the website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here. Best
Thank
wishes
you.
to you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
You bet. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.